There's a new movement that's coming up ahead, and it really is just a culmination of a lot of stuff that we've been going through in the past 2 years, but that I actually think the last 2 years have expanded and aggravated this movement even more. And it's not a good movement. It just shows exactly how much victim mindset is set in society these days. So that's what we're going to talk about, is the anti-work movement this week on episode 107 of The Relaxed Male.
Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male, a podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Brian, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies.
Hey man, hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. All right, so want to first off show some appreciation, some gratitude to the new folks and the folks who are returning. The first time listeners, guys, thank y'all for taking the time to listen to the show. I am your host, Brian, and I run Relaxed Male website to help men step into their masculinity and become the men that their society needs, and to help them to live life on their own. Really, instead of playing the nice guy and having the whole mess of playing the nice guy and that whole nice guy syndrome, want to try to drive that out of society. And that's what my main drive is. My main sense of purpose is for this site and for the show in particular, which has been around we're doing the 107th episode now. So doing it for a couple of years at the moment. And so if this is your first time listening, I thank you again. Just greatly appreciated for the fact that you're coming in, listening to the show. Hopefully you can find something that is of value, something that's inspirational, something that really just kind of grabs you and turns up the intensity just a little bit to where you want to actually start becoming a better man. Become a man that your wife wants and your children need, and society honestly needs too. And if I do achieve that somewhere along the way, man, just share this episode out. Share this out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all the different social media places that you are. That's the main ask that I do for this show. And if you want to even contribute even more, then I've got other things that you can do to help this show, to get it to grow, to get it to be able to help out around, help the men and families out there that are needing real men to step up for society's sake. Now, this week wanted to talk about a movement that is actually coming on. Now, it's been around for a while, but just especially for the past 2 years, the intensity on it has just really started to ramp up. And a lot of it is based in stuff that just isn't good for the United States at all. Not good for us in any form, fashion, or the other. And that is the anti-work movement. Now, about a month ago, a publication, I believe it was some business journal. Anyhow, they were talking about the Great Resignation that they're coming across. Now, the Great Resignation is people have gone through the past 2 years of being on lockdown. I mean, they had the first full year of a lot of people were on lockdown. They couldn't go to their offices. They were told that, there wasn't any, if you're going to work, you got to work from home. And so, people were able to become a lot more productive, and they'd get their work done and have still half the day to do. And so they were to mess around with. And so they got around to where they were able to experience a life of enjoying a little bit more. Now, that what they realized is with that spare time that they didn't need to be sitting on their laurels, didn't need to be sitting on their butts and just waiting for checks to roll in. No, they decided, hey, what if, now that I've got this free time, what if I was to try a dream of mine? Let's try seeing what happens if we can get a business up and going. And a lot of people have. A lot of people have started businesses. They got little side hustles going on. They got little extra things that they're doing to bring in some extra money. And they're being able to enjoy the rewards of providing value for society. And that Great Resignation is actually a lot of these people have started making enough money within the last 2 years where they're able to just say, you know what, main job, I'm going to go focus in on this side job here for a bit. And so a lot of people have been resigning from their day job, which, yeah, okay, people are leaving the workforces, leaving where they need to go to for where they typically went for their normal day job, their 9-to-5er, and have started blazing their own path, providing value for society. And so a lot of people have been dropping out of work. Now, a lot of other people have been at home and have been doing nothing. And they have been resisting going back to work. Maybe when they received those stimulus checks, they really just went ahead and squirreled them away and cut their cost of living way down and have just sat on that money and just letting the savings go away. Because at the beginning of 2019 and in 2020, people were reporting that America's savings were at one of the all-time highs. And now, just, a year and a half, 2 years later, we're at critical low stages of people saving money. Now, that's a lot of it is also due to, inflation and all the other wonderful things that have been happening here recently in the U.S. Thanks to those in power. And so we've really started to see two different factions forming. And that other faction is the direct opposite of the Great Resignation. And that is the anti-work movement. And I've talked about in the past the differences between boys and men. And the Great Resignation, honestly, that's the men of these two groups. These are the people who are still producing, they're creating value, they're providing to society, and and society is rewarding them with more and more money and free time and time to be able to do stuff that they want to do. Now, the anti-work side is just the opposite. They're the ones who they may have been going to work, but they really just kind of hated going to work. When I started looking at this, a couple of weeks ago, came across a story about some retail stores that are getting their receipt printers spammed and having some type of little anti-work manifesto printed out. And from there, that's when it cropped up on my radar. And from there, and time again, more and more in the past couple, 3 weeks, I've really started to hear a lot more about this whole anti-work movement that's going on, and looking into it and looking around and seeing what people are doing. And it really is just, right now, if you go over to Reddit, the subreddit of anti-work, which, Reddit's got subreddits of just about anything and everything. You'll see that a lot of them right now, they're talking about the Kellogg strike. Kellogg's workers are striking. They unionized. Yay, union. We'll talk about unions here in a moment, but they've unionized, and they decided their work conditions are not cool and not welcomed. And so they've gone on strike. Well, Kellogg's tried to work with the unions, and the union basically just told them to go pound sand and go, try again. We want more. Kellogg's as a company is like, well, okay, we've got to get people back to work. We got to get people in here so we can meet the demands of the customers. And that's the line of the thing. Now, the people who are of the anti-work, the strikers, they're looking at how horrible the capitalist system is because they're wanting to just work people to the bone and not care about their lives. And it's not their responsibility to care about your life. But the anti-work movement and the strike really kind of fit hand in hand, because what it is it's people saying, you know what, I'm tired of working this crappy job. I'm not getting paid enough money to do this, and I'm going to quit, and I'm just going to go find something else. Well, okay. You can find something else. If you're a person who is working at a fast food restaurant and you're stacking the burgers together. Your amount of skill is not going to be somebody who makes $100,000 a year. Being a truck driver, I don't make $100,000 a year. Being a truck driver, you make, 50, 60,000. Now there's some young folks who would probably wishing, wow, that's really nice. I'd like to have that. Yeah. Well, dude, to make $50,000, $60,000 a year, you got to do a lot. And that's if you're just a company driver. You can make a lot more being a owner operator, but you also have a crap ton more expenses. But what I'm really seeing and what's really I'm noticing that's being aggravating with this is the fact that people really don't want to work anymore. They enjoyed being able to sit at the house, fire up a big old bong hit, and then turn around and play, sit down, zone out, and play video games for the rest of the day. Occasionally go up, take out the trash, and might have to deal with what the kids are doing and hang around the kids. And there's some folks who realize that that's what they really like. They want to spend time with their kids. They want to not be gone all the time hanging, and they would like to help raise their kids. And that's a great thing. If that's what you're actually wanting, that's not anti-work. That is you realizing your priorities are needing to be shifted. And a lot of people do. They get their priorities out of whack. They want to try to blame the corporations for their priorities being out of whack, but it's not. You're the one who has actually caused all that problem. You're the one who has decided, you know what? I'm going to spend more than what I bring in. I'm going to have credit card debt. I'm going to have, all this extra debt that's on hand. I'm not going to have any savings. And, and I'll just pay it off as it goes, because they phrase it in a way to where it sounds really nice. Oh, it's just $25 a month. That's all I have to pay on the credit card bills. Yeah. $25 a month, and you have to pay it out for 20, 30 years. And next thing you know, that hamburger that you bought with a credit card back in 2010 has already cost you probably $50. That better be a really good McDonald's hamburger, man. And those people who have decided they want to spend time with their family realize that they have to get their affairs in order. To be able to just up and leave, you need to have a backup plan. And some of these guys, they don't have a backup plan. They're just like, well, this ain't cool then. And they storm off and they tell their bosses to go take a flying leap. They're not doing this no more. And then they just leave and they collect unemployment and think that their life is going to be okay, except they're slowly sinking. Life is coming along and is going to smack them upside the back of the head. Now, I mentioned before that there was a receipt, kind of a manifesto, and I wanted to read that to you real quick, because what it says is, are you being underpaid? Creating that. We have a protected legal right to discuss your pay, or you have the protected legal right to discuss your pay with your coworkers. This should be done on a regular basis to ensure everyone is being paid fairly. All right. Now hold up. Let's stop right there. Do you have a right to be able to discuss your pay? Well, yeah. But the question is it really your business to know what the other person's getting paid? Is that really your responsibility? Do you really need to stick your nose in other people's business? No, dude, you don't. You don't need to know what everybody else is paying. And then frankly, it's none of your dadgum business. You have no right to know what other people pay. If they want to share it with you, okay, fine. And what do you do with that information is completely up to you. But you may find out that, yeah, Fred's been working here for 10 years and he's getting paid an extra $2.50. You've been here for a whole whopping 3.5 years and you're still only, you're not getting paid nearly that much. Well, yeah, because Fred's been here for 10. Fred's probably done a lot more and he's gotten a lot more. He's put in the time. You could sit there and decide, well, Fred's not doing anything. That's not you can look at that all you want and you can have the thoughts of, hey, he's not doing anything, and think that until you're blue in the face. It doesn't make a hill of beans difference if you're been there for 3.5 years and you're just showing up on time, barely on time. And the moment it strikes 5 o'clock, you've got that time card in your hand, punching out, running for the door. While Fred's may still be there and he's punching out, 30 minutes, an hour late because he's trying to finish something up. there's a lot of nuance, and there is a very subjective term being used in this thing, and that's called being paid fairly. Well, being paid fairly means, are you getting paid what you are according to the value of what you're being earned or what you're giving? If you're giving them, you're there from 5 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, and you're heading up several different projects. Guess what? You're going to get paid a lot more than somebody who just barely shows up and punches in maybe a minute, 15 minutes late and leaves a little bit early. Every time there's a time for a break, they're running off to the snack machine to grab something to eat and a cup of coffee, and you can always know where to find them because they're over by the water cooler. Yeah, you're going to know who's providing value and who's not if you step back and get out of your own dadgum head and think, you know what, I deserve more. Do you really? Do you really deserve more, or do you just want to earn more without having to put in the effort? So let's continue. It is illegal for your employer to punish you for doing this. That part's right. But if you were to go in to access the pay records and share that out with everybody, that's where you've broken the law. People could talk amongst each other. They're trying to make this seem like there's a whole big conspiracy, and it's not. It's just, again, it's none of your damn business what I make, and it's none of my business to know what you make. If you want to share it, all right, fine. There's a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs out there that love to share how much they make each month. If you learn with the, continuing with this little manifesto, if you learn that you are being paid less than someone else who is doing the same job as you, you should demand a raise. Well, again, what is the definition of the same job? Are you both standing together, putting a gear onto a dickhead? Or are you just taking are you doing more to put to what your task is? If you're, again, but at the same time, if you're both, putting gears onto peckerheads, there's no difference. If y'all started at the same time, you probably are getting paid about the same, unless the other guy did negotiate a higher price and you just immediately accepted. Well, whose fault is that? Is that the guy next door to you who in the next cubicle who negotiated an extra $2 an hour? Or is it actually your fault because you just immediately went, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll do that for $15 an hour. So no, this is, again, people don't want to take responsibility for what their freaking actions are. So that you should demand a raise. According to who? You can go in there, you can demand a raise. And if you're going to go in there and you demand a raise, well, guess what? The boss is probably going to go, you know what? You deserve a raise. Raise your butt up and get out the door, please. And he can rightfully do so, especially if you're in a right to work state, which is awesome because you don't have to be in a union. But anyhow, they continue. You should demand a raise or consider getting fired and finding a better employer. Now, why should you consider getting fired? That's the question. Why do they not say go off and quit? Because if you quit, you don't get unemployment. If you get fired, you're eligible often for unemployment. So that way you can it's again, poverty wages will only exist because people are willing to work for them. Poverty wages will continue to exist only because people are not willing to do the hard work to make more money. A lot of people get really upset with me whenever I sit there and tell them the poor people are poor because they want to be. They get all, what? Oh, yeah. What do you think? I want to be struggling to make my house payment? Yeah. Because it is easier for you to go home, crack open a beer, sit down and watch television than to just go sit down in front of the computer and start trying to start up your own business. It is easier to come immediately home and unwind and complain about the kids and complain at your wife and watch television and watch the football game because it's a heck of a lot easier, man. You're a lot more comfortable sitting in your misery than you are getting out of that misery and getting uncomfortable, climbing your way out, because it's not easy to climb yourself out of the misery that you're used to being in. It's not. It's uncomfortable. You are going to make mistakes and you're going to start making a little bit of money and you're going to fall back on your butt. And it happens time and time again. You're going to worry, sit there and worry and have thoughts about, well, what are my friends going to think if I'm making more money than them? It's, again, dude, you're not, who cares? If those friends are too busy sitting on their butt, getting high and playing video games and watching YouTube videos and watching Netflix, then trying to improve themselves, then guess what, man? You're going to lose those friends anyhow, because you're going to arrive on a different level. But guess what? There are more friends up on that new level. On that level of, hey, I'm starting to bring some money in. I'm actually kind of a business owner. Holy smokes, what am I doing here? I need to talk to other people. And what do I do here? And you're going to start bringing in higher caliber friends. Yeah, your old drinking buddy from college, he's a really fun guy to hang out with. But guess what? He's always going to be sitting there on the couch, stoned out of his gourd, with a beer in his hand, wondering what he's going to do tonight. You can love him dearly, but if he is not a high quality friend, you're going to stay, because you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most intentional time with. If you're too busy just hanging out with your buddies instead of going out and trying to improve yourself and improve your family, and improve your kids, improve your station in life, then all you have is to sit around and bitch, moan, and groan. Now, went ahead and continued doing a little bit of looking up, and Barnaby Lashbrook over at Forbes was talking about this, and talked a bit about the anti-work movement in a bit, to say that the problem was work-life balance, which is, again, that's a crap line. All right. People have been trying to figure out work-life balance since they first walked out of the cave. There is no work-life balance. There is a work-life integration. There are going to be times that, yeah, you've got to really focus in on work. And when you do, your family life is going to be sacrificed. Then there's times that you're really going to want to spend time with your family. And guess what? Work quality and work is going to get sacrificed. You can try to balance that out and find that, that mythical balance between the two, but it'll never happen, because the moment that you hit equilibrium, all of a sudden your child's going to break their arm, and you've got a really freaking important meeting that you're supposed to be going to today, but you can't because you have to take your son to the emergency room, or you're going to spend, or you've got a downtime and you try to go to see with your family, and you get hit with, oh, well, I don't love you anymore, sweetheart. I'm leaving. I want a divorce. I'm moving out and I'm taking the kids. What happened to your work-life balance then? Barnaby also likes to talk about how employers should be helping with a better work-life balance, which, no, that is not the employer's job to make sure that your life is, your work is accompanying to your life balance, making sure that you're able to go spend all the time you want with your kids. No, that is not their job. Your boss and your employer is there to make sure that they help you become a better employee. Then I was looking around, and also, Slate, which is, the pinnacle of capitalistic ideas, was talking about the anti-work movement. And I mean, they had a huge victim mindset point of view. And they were talking about how it's just, businesses are just getting in the way of how people are living their life. And they did give out a point, which the guy is not being a victim. The guy was doing smart. He was doing precisely what a man does. He talked about a guy who for 5 years got a paycheck for not doing an ounce of work. What he ended up doing is he actually sat down, looked at what he was supposed to be entering. He's doing a data entry job. He looked at what he was going to be getting in emails every day, and saw that, oh, I can actually take this, run a script, have it automatically put out. Just essential copy and paste type of thing. Brilliant idea. And so he went off and spent, I think he said he spent like 2 months' wages to have a programmer create a script, and he would run it every day. And he was one of the best workers in there, and he wasn't doing anything. Well, he was doing something. He was accomplishing what he was designed to do. And wasn't that he had to actually physically sit down and type everything in. He could run a script, and that script would be entered into the database. It was freaking brilliant. He was working harder, or smarter, not harder. And that's the main point. If you are awarded extra money when you work smarter when you work on a different level. The guy did a great job. He was providing a huge amount of value. And that's, he got, they ended up changing systems. And so his script didn't work anymore and they let him go. Well, okay. But a lot of all this also binds up together with the unions. And I am not a fan of a union. If you look at, anything the unions have done. Was there a time when unions were were valuable? Yeah. Back in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, when they were really just, putting people into grinders, and there's nothing that, if you got your arm cut off, if you didn't show up, after you got your arm bandaged from a machine and you got the next day, if you didn't show up, well, then they would just give your job to somebody else. Okay. There's some, there's a little bit of heartlessness in there that was able to be shaped thanks to some union work. But as a whole, these days, unions are nothing more than an arm of the mafia. Most of them are run by some form mafia underling for some other type of crime family. The people who are the mob or the union bosses, what do they actually do? Other than stand around and go clap politicians on the back and go, ha, 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 here, here, have a cigar, and here's a big old giant expensive piece of artwork or something. They quote unquote wheel and deal, but they're pushing their own agendas and they get rich off of what your work is. It's not their work. The whole thing about what the communists like to complain about, how the corporations get rich off the back of the working man. Really funny thing is, no, they actually don't. But the unions sure as hell do, because they don't provide a real service. Know quite a few union folks who they were in union and they worked for a little bit and then they would all of a sudden they get fired and they would bring somebody else in. You were just a cog in the whole union machine. And while Kellogg's is going through this strike, guess who's making out? It's not Kellogg's, because they're going to end up having to pay a heck of a lot more money with lower production time. The employees, they're going to get paid a little bit better, but their working conditions may improve slightly. But at the same time, they're not going to see much of an increase in their money, because they're going to end up still paying their union dues. And because they paid because the union bosses and the union itself scratched their back, it's time for you to scratch them and provide them with a little bit more money so they can continue to represent you. So no, the unions are twisted and they're corrupt, and they're not something that has the working man's benefit at heart. Because the employees, they're going to end up having more cases of burnout. People are still going to be leaving. They're going to get fired for random reasons. The union's not going to fix anything at all. Like I said, they may have a little bit more nicer working condition, but it's not going to be much. And people are still going to complain. The employees are still going to gripe. They're still going to know that they're going to still end up not getting anywhere close to what they want. But a lot of the folks over in the anti-work area, boy, they are really for unions. They think unions are the cat's meow. Well, no, I can tell you, if you want to be able to make more money and you want to become more successful, you have to be a man. You have to start producing, because boys do nothing but consume. I mentioned that before, and I'll mention it all over and over again throughout this whole series of podcasts that I do. You are not going to find any type of happiness wishing that you were somebody else. If you're looking at the CEO going, why does he get paid so much? Because, damn it, he's got a lot more stuff that he does than you do. You get to go home and leave, at a set time. He's traveling off to different states. He's doing deals. He's got a vision he has to follow through. He has to try get all the different departments to work in unison to make sure that the corporation that he's working for and is representing is heading in the right direction. And then on top of that, you've got a whole crap ton of investors who's going to be barking at his door if they're not carrying through. He's got a heck of a lot more stress. He's got a heck of a lot more problems that are sitting on his mind than, damn it, I don't have enough to pay the house. Well, man, that's not your CEO's fault. It's not because you didn't get paid enough. If you had planned and you had actually done some financial work, you would have seen, if I hadn't have gone over to the casino for the past 2 weeks and spent, $500 each night, I probably would have had enough money for the house payment. It's not your boss's fault that you had a bad decision. And a lot of the guys who are with Antiwork don't seem to fully see or understand or realize the fact that if you want to be successful, it takes work and sacrifice. You're going to have to bust your butt. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to do shit in the rain, and you're going to be working your tail to the bone, especially if you're trying to get a new business going. That first year is just an intense rush of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm trying to get over here and go over there and getting everything done and trying to see if maybe you could squeak out an extra $1 from this machine that you're cobbling together. And a lot of times, no, nothing. Okay, well, what's broken? What's broken? And you start having to tear everything apart and reassemble it and figure out where you got something wrong. And when you figure it out, boom, voila, hey, I know what to do next time that problem happens. But if you are sitting around being anti-work, then guess what? You're going to sit down and you're going to be going, the boss just screwed me. He fired me. He's such a jerk. Blah, 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 blah. And you're going to whine, cry, and moan and groan about it. Instead of going, all right, well, I know that we are in an employee's market right now. I could go out and I could find a job in 13 different places this day alone. Boom, let's go. And if you're willing to, you don't have to have the perfect job right off the bat, especially if you just get fired. Go find someplace, flip burgers, and let them know, I'm going to be here just for a while. I'm just bringing in, this is for a check until I can find, the next stone up. Most of the people are going to be going, dude, at least you're working. Thank you. And they will have no problem with that. But you don't really need to be it's not a good deal anyhow, just to be going in there just to say, you know what, I'm using you strictly for a temporary business. You don't actually need to be, honestly, you don't need to be telling them that. But you want to go find a job, get something that at least is bringing a little bit of money in as you search for that better job. And when you come across that better job, you take it, and it may be a little bit better fit, but it's not quite the fit. Maybe it's what you want to do, but it's in the really crappy hours. And so you work there until you can find what you want that's in a little bit better time, and you keep at it. You have to jump. You have to go do interviews and all this other stuff. And you may have to go to another town, and there's all this stuff that you have to do. If you want to be successful, you want to find a job that you like and that you're able to make money at, you're going to have to do the stuff that you don't really want to do. It takes time. It takes money to make money. But it's not the money that need to worry about. It's what type of value are you giving to the people who you're working for. Now, there are 3 different types of people, and I heard this off the Order of Man podcast. And Ryan Mickler was talking to Pete Roberts of Origin, and Pete Roberts put out a really good analogy that there are 3 types of people in the employment area. There are the people who are the squatters. There are the renters and the owners. The squatters are the people who they come in late. They leave early. They're not providing anything really. They're just there to suck up oxygen. There's no use. They're doing nothing but fully just consuming everything. There's the renters. They show up on time. They leave on time, and you're not going to get much else out of them. They really don't have much more. They're there for a paycheck, and they do what they have to do to that line. Once it starts trying to go past that, they're like, yeah, dude, that's not my job. And so they stay in the renter position, and those people are the ones who end up not liking their job because they see that they want more, but they really don't want to do more. Then finally you have an owner, and these are the people with the ownership mentality. They work like this business depends on them. They take ownership for what they do. They work as if they are a part of an owner. They partly own this company. Do they? No, but they act like they do. They are putting their heart and soul into that company. And because of it, the owner gets the better pay. while the squatter sucks so much of the energy out. If you have a business and you've got some squatters, it's better to go ahead and fire those squatters and let the renters see, hey, if you're sitting there doing nothing, let's start busting our butt, because the squatter's going to do nothing but take some of the renters and convert them into squatters, going, hey, dude, you don't have to do much around here, because you know what? I haven't really lifted a hand in the past month and a half, and your boss doesn't even know I'm around, really. It's awesome. Well, all of a sudden, Mr. Awesome is gone because the boss said, dude, you hadn't done squat in the past 2.5 months. Get out of here. All of a sudden, renter who was looking towards that squatter position and going, dude, I could be lazy and be okay. All of a sudden it's like, oh, dude, I better get to work. So don't be the renter. Don't be a squatter, but want to make sure that when you're working for somebody, that you're working as an owner. You will get more recognition for being the owner. And you won't give a rat's butt, especially what the squatter thinks, because the squatter's not contributing anything anyhow. He's consuming value instead of producing value. They won't stay. And if you have a right culture in your business, the squatter gets driven out anyhow. Nobody will talk to them. Nobody will work with them because they're not providing anything. While the owner is the winner of the company. Now, another problem that a lot of people are running into is especially the young kids. And I was listening to a talk show host who was talking about a discussion he had with his son. And the discussion that he was having was that his son doesn't feel like he is ever going to be able to be successful. He's just getting ready. I think he's getting like 17, 18, maybe just 16. Anyhow, in that area where, you're really kind of starting to think of, what do I want to do with my life? And he's really trying to tell his son, what is your definition of success? Because your success is dependent entirely upon you. It has nothing to do with what society wants. If you want to be successful and have people, know you and like you and all that, and you are only making $50,000, guess what? You're a success. If you want to be known for somebody who gives with a whole heart, and you're barely making ends meet yourself, well, if that's what you define as being successful, okay, you're a success. If you think you have to make $100 million a month and that everybody has to fall down at your feet, and that's what you define success as, well, okay, you're going to really struggle and wonder why you're not making success, because success isn't fitting in with what your values are. And a lot of kids these days are falling for InstaFake. Now, InstaFake is Instagram, except for the fact that they follow people who are so plastic, so fake, so just oozing with, they're the guys who you see them, they're leaning up against a Lamborghini or something like that. And they're got a couple bills and they're flashed out and they try to make themselves look like they're millionaires and they're successful. And in all reality, no, they're barely hanging on to success, to that whole image. They're holding on with the tips of their fingers, or with their fingertips, and they're struggling. And they're having to do more and more and more just to get people to like their stuff, because people eventually realize, dude, this is so fake. The people who get more are the people who actually are sharing their life. Yeah, you can have a average type of Instagram account like the Relaxed Males, and yeah, I don't have many followers. And it's not because I think a lot of it is just because I'm a bit on the boring side, and I'm trying to figure out what really resonates with people. But it's not that I'm going to continue trying to up myself and one up myself. I just want to have my message out there and to repeat that message over and over and over again, and get people to understand, hey, we need men. These men need to stop playing the nice guy, because nice guys freaking suck, But yet kids look at these high count influencers, and then they don't realize that one day that influencer doesn't show up all that much anymore. And what happened? Well, they don't know because you know what? They've had 3 other high value count influencers come into the scene, and those kids are already following them going, wow, I really wish I could have that. Wow, that's what it looks like to be successful. No, we used to have the same thing. We used to sit down and we would watch Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous by Robin Leach, and I don't know why. Anyhow, bad impression, but you got to Saturday Night Live. Anyhow. But anyhow, you had Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. You had Cribs on MTV. And those were basically Instagram before Instagram was around. We would sit there and watch, look at all these different mansions and all these cars. And they would, Robin Leach would just describe all these opulent lifestyles that were out there for these really rich and famous people. And guess what? Those rich and famous people were just, they busted their butt. Most of them did. Some of them may have, gotten something from dad, but then they took that something from dad and converted it into millions and millions and billions of dollars. And you can too. Stop looking at what other people have. That's the main point that I want to make. If you want to be successful, don't worry about what other people are. Worry about what you're doing. Are you meeting your goals? Are you hitting your values that you have set for yourself? Are you living your life the way you need to be? Is the way in the terms of what you want your life to be living? If so, awesome, great. If not, then start kicking it up a notch. Stop, give up an hour or two at PlayStation and go out and talk to people. You can do those things. And when you do those things, you'll find that life will provide back. Society will provide you the value back when you provide value for them. When you hear anti-work, know that it's like MGTOW or men going their own way. It's a bunch of guys who gave up on actually providing value, and they're just going, well, I'm just going to sit around and hope that the government just pays for whatever I want to do. And now just going to give me something else to complain about, and I'm just going to hold a grudge. And they're going to. There's nothing you can do to change that other than just live your life to your definitions. Make sure you live your values, and you're reaching, you're working. Do the compounding effect. Do one little step every day. And before you know it, at the end of a month, at the end of a year, you're gone a mile, 2 miles, 100 miles longer than what somebody sitting on their butt wishing that something nice would happen to them would ever get. So guys, with that, thank you for listening. If you liked anything, if I said anything that you enjoyed on this show, please share it out with your groups, with your family, if you know a guy who this could really resonate with, hit that share button on your podcast platform of choice and share it with them. Go, dude, you'd like this. Listen to this. This is solid. Or if you know several people who might help, and then share it in. If you can share it into Facebook groups, share it into Facebook groups, share it wherever it is you can share this, and let people know that there is a thing called the Relaxed Male out there, and it's destined to help you. It's going to help you reach what your destiny is. But first, you have to actually take the step to do so. So guys, with that, thanks again for listening. We will see y'all next week. Till then, bye.